So DanMachi Season 4 has officially returned, and if we remember, we last left off with Bell falling down a hole to the lower levels after basically barely surviving his first go-around with this skeleton-looking dragon. Turns out said beast is down there with him on top of all of the other monstrosities that he'll have to deal with down there. He has one working arm seemingly, his other one's basically wrapped with that scarf, which is, as he puts it, keeping his bones there, but they're still rattling around. You then, on the basically the floor we were just at there, you have this twin-headed beast that basically is nullifying magic, and while yes, the crew looks like they did well enough, I mean, you have to remember, even if they defeat this creature, that's probably still just the appetizer of the danger we're going to experience in this season. And the fact that we have gone from Moss Huge to this twin-headed beast to this skeleton dragon that literally cut our boy's head off at one point, it just doesn't seem like the stakes are getting any easier for these characters. Yes, potentially with Hestia, reinforcements might be coming, but I still have to say I have no idea how these characters make it out alive, but I'm excited to see them prevail if they can, and if not, it's going to be a bloody mess. Now, I do have a full live reaction to today's episode available on the Patreon if you're interested, so consider supporting if you want to see that, but let's talk about this. Episode 12, I mean, I was a big fan of Season 4. I mean, I've been a big fan of DanMachi ever since it began, but I really have to say Season 3 and 4 have kind of elevated and really fleshed out what I want to see, while kind of continuing to show that dungeon crawling adventure in a way that a lot of these shows don't. Because I think one of the things that hooked in a lot of people early on to DanMachi was the dungeon crawling, because there wasn't a lot that really delved into it. But now you have a show like this, which is going the extra mile to say, this is how brutal and insane this environment can be. And when you literally have two people on arguably the most dangerous floor they can be at, you have a creature that is still alive and kicking, trying to kill you. Among everything else, all we're hearing is sounds, and I think one of the best ways to make someone scared is to not show them the creature, but to let them hear it, or let their imaginations run wild. I mean, some of the best horror movies are where you never actually see the monster, the villain in question, because nothing can live up to your own imagination. And for most of the time we saw Belle, which was very small amounts of screen time, but when we did, we heard things in the distance, and we're like, holy shit, that sounded bigger than the last thing he fought, and then it gets your mind racing. Put yourself in a boy's shoes who's literally dangling his arm around, holding a girl up who, at this point, I can't even trust that he believes she's alive, but just needs to keep her body as safe as possible, and then you show us the creature we just fought in the prior episode before the break. It's just, this show knows what it's doing with stakes and tension, and I really think DanMachi has elevated itself from going from a good, great show into an honestly amazing one with where we're currently at. The Cassandra stuff I thought was really nice because it's, yes, obviously they needed two healers, and her not doing that, I mean, for most of that fight, it definitely was a negative point towards their morale and basically their physique in order to keep fighting. But I think when you have someone who is so haunted by visions like her, and of course, in very mythical fashion in any sort of mythology with Cassandras who can see the future or predict the future, never believe but mostly comes out true with her visions. She's basically haunted by them and she almost gives up before it starts. And I like seeing how she did get that pick-me-up to see them all kind of charge in, and the entire fight with that twin-headed beast I thought was fantastic. Now, when this initially popped up in the prior episode, I believe, or the episode before that, I forget how long it was on screen, prior to this episode anyway, I saw a lot of pushback with the 3D, the mixture of the 2D and 3D effects with this creature. I still think it looks fantastic. I think just because they're in a cave with this kind of like bluish lighting, it blends everything in a very natural way, and I think with a creature that size you need it to be more 3D in order to get all the effects right. It was smooth, there was a lot of really creative decisions with how it attacks. I mean, initially when they froze the water, because obviously, who's going to have the advantage? A water serpent-like dragon or people who need to walk on land? So giving themselves a little floor to charge in there was really nice, but the thing that really sold me on the immersion of this fight was the sound direction. Now, the initial blast when it did its like roar, that kind of just sounds stockish sound effect design. It wasn't anything to write home about, but every other little detail was really well done. There's moments where characters fire their bow and you can hear it basically just deflect off of its scales almost like it's metal, like it's that hard and basically that durable. And just all the little details in terms of the sound design on top of obviously the great visual effects directing. I mean, we're like literally a GoPro on the shoulders of some of these characters just flying through this scene. It's amazing. It's immersive. But it's the sound direction that a lot of people aren't going to notice it unless they pay very close attention, they wear headphones, and they're listening for those extra details. But even if you don't notice them per se, if you were to remove those extra sound effects and those sound design details, the fight would have felt a lot more flat. So by having them there, it really elevated a scene into feeling like it was lifelike, despite looking at a twin-headed dragon serpent-like beast, and that's what I like about this production. Obviously, there's obvious Sakuga moments that people hype up, and not to say they shouldn't hype them up, they're generally pretty fantastic. But it's honestly, there's a lot of details that honestly go hand in hand to make this production pop, and by constantly switching around, saying, damn, like this twin-headed creature, like even if you defeat this, you know this floor boss isn't going to be the worst they'll have to face off against, and if it is, I mean, bless their hearts for somehow being okay, because even if this is the worst that floor has to offer, they're going to go after Bell most likely, and if not, then they're going to have to fight something that's even worse than what's currently trying to kill them. And then for Bell, even if you manage to heal him, right, imagine he's 100% capable at some point in the lowest floors of the dungeon. Well, here's the thing, he can easily get hurt again. I mean, that's what's frightening, is even if you repair these characters and you give them victories, it's still gonna get worse before it gets better, and I truly don't know how you wrap this up with all the characters we're currently seeing on screen ending up living. And if they do, it is gonna be, without a doubt, the biggest and most badass victory that this Familia has ever dealt with up to this point. But to see the different characters, I mean, literally, like, at this point, they're like, damn, if we don't have Bell, we're screwed. And characters who, up until this season, you know, we look at as Bell being like, if we don't have so-and-so, then I can't win. To see them all now rely on Bell to that point, to then need to, like, slap themselves in the face, being like, when did I need to start relying on some guy? Like, I can do this myself. And I'm like, damn, Queen, you go get him. And I just like that. I like that. It just felt like there was stakes, there was tension. It was well produced, and it just felt like the core never left us off on a giant cliffhanger. It just felt like we were right back into the swing of things, and DanMachi is still at its very best. But I mean, like I've been saying now over 12 videos for this season of DanMachi, it is an absolute roller coaster of emotion that just has me glued to my seat, eyes just not being able to look away from the screen for more than a second, because this shit is exciting, and I'm very excited, if not worried, because while definitely the dragon fight, even if it pops back up after having gravity magic and the whole cave in on it, even if they survive that, it's Bell, right? Because even if he gets a healing stone of some sort that puts him back to perfect, like, he's gonna be in that condition before he ever meets back up with his people again. And if he can't heal himself, how the hell is he going to keep his arm intact? Because eventually that scar's not going to be enough. But enough ramblings from me. What did you think of this week's episode of DanMachi, and how excited are you for the rest of this season? Do let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction is available on the Patreon, and you can also get video shoutouts and other perks as well. So do consider if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.